The solution to your problems can be found in your story. In this channel, we talk about African history, the ancient one, as well as yesterday's history. And we also hold our leaders accountable. But we're not only doing that, we also celebrate those who fought for freedom. Guess who am I going to talk about in this video? Today, January 12th, he was born in the United States of America. He was censored by the system. He was feared by the colonizer. Today, we consider him one of the greatest freedom fighters of all times. He fought without fear or favor. He was also charismatic. Guess who am I going to talk about?
You were in Uganda. You even considered Uganda as a national homeland. You considered Argentina as a homeland. And finally, you decided on Palestine. If you're going to be promised something by God, you don't have to run all over the world looking for a place. If God gives it to you, God gives it to you, and you don't have to look for it.
Dr. Khalid Mohammed was not only a freedom fighter or a radical freedom fighter, but he was also an educator, a teacher of self-love, a keeper of history. This is the man who kept on digging deep to find the truth or to expose the lies of the system. That is why the system hated him. That is why the system didn't like him. That is why they use religion and many other things to keep us uninformed. But this is the man who informed us in the midst of what the system was doing to our forefathers, trying to manipulate us, trying to control us, trying to do all sorts of things. But before I can talk further about Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, I just want us to go through one of his best interviews. I may be biased, but I consider this interview to be one of his best.
And certainly we can never mention Nelson without mentioning Winnie Mandela. But Nelson Mandela's attempt at a multiracial government in South Africa after the murder of men, women, children, and babies, and the rape of South Africa, a criminal settler colony that has been established like Israel there in that part of the world. I cannot go along with one man, one vote. Let me say why. If someone broke into your home, Mr. Donahue, and actually bum-rushed your home, and black boots stomped your door down, and came in and robbed and raped everyone in the household, and was able to take the wealth of your home and parlay it into an empire. This is an invader. This is an intruder. This is a murderer. This is a burglar. This is a criminal. So you have no responsibility to share your home with them after they broke in and committed the crimes that they did.
You may agree with him, you may disagree with him, but this is the man who opened my eyes, who made me realize that there was something wrong about 1994. I started analyzing all political parties that were there prior to 1994, such as African National Congress, SACP, PAC, Black Consciousness, and many others. Then I started realizing that there was something fishy about 1994, not just an era, but something that was planned. Why? Because when you take over the kingdom, you cannot continue with the principles of the former kingdom. In other words, it's only in Africa where when we get independence, we have to continue with the principle or the principles of the former system. In other words, of the colonizer. How can you do that? So that is why I keep on saying, here in Africa, we are only living in fake independence. So all these countries here in Africa, they only have fake independence. We are only pretending. So whenever people would analyze, we can talk about historians and politicians and say we are living in freedom, that's a big lie. That is why right now we are still under bondage. So this is the man who opened my eyes. So the reason I consider this interview one of the best is because he spoke directly to South Africa, what was happening to South Africa at that time. And he spoke the truth. And many people did not listen to him. And those who listened to Dr. Khalid Mohammed did not have a chance to occupy any position in South African leadership back then in 1994.
Phil, I do not want to see my beloved brother, President Aristide, returned to Haiti by the power of a Bill Clinton. Because if Bill Clinton can help to return him there, he will always attempt to be the puppeteer who will pull the strings and try to dictate to my brother how he should carry out the affairs of government there.
Dr. Khalid Mohammed was not only fighting for African Americans only, since he was born in the United States of America, but he fought for all black people in the world. We can talk about those who live in Caribbean countries, those who live in Brazil, those who live in Australia, those who live in the continent of Africa. So that is why I consider this man a man of love, a man who loved himself, a man who did not segregate against any black man or any African.
Their work is a work of liberation and salvation. Their work is a work to raise the mentally and spiritually dead black man and woman after we have been robbed of our names, our language, our religion, our culture, our God, our folkways, mores, and robbed of a power, the power of our own being.
The reason I say we are still under oppression is because we were robbed of everything. Our languages were taken away. That is why we are living in fake independence here in Africa, because our languages are not used in most cases as a primary mode of communication, are not being developed by the state or by our governments here in Africa, and they don't even have intentions of doing so. That's a sign that we are still under colonialism, we are still under oppression, and we should not lie to one another. Yes, other people might have like certain privileges, but it doesn't mean even a billionaire, a black billionaire, is still under oppression, because there's a difference between money and power. In other words, the day you have power, then you can be able to restore all these things. Now we ask ourselves why these things are not being restored. Our culture, our traditions, our languages, and everything, our history, is because we are still under the bondage.
It has been
and why would we want to
perpetrated
lift up
before
his
the
skirt to
world.
discover what it might be?
Well, we're saying lift up the skirt again. I don't believe you're missing what I'm saying.
Well,
Lifting up the skirt again, as the scripture says, raising the skirts of the garment. I'll say it once more for you, and only once more. Has to do with revealing the history, the hidden history. When you lift up someone's garments, then you show their shame. You show up their private parts, that which they normally hide from the rest of the world. I'm not dealing with organs under the garment. I'm dealing with the organ of slavery and those parts that have been kept private from the masses of the people.
We are in New York City.
Dr. Khalid Mohammed was not only charismatic, but he also used metaphors in most of his speeches. And that is why some of these people are confused. But they are not just confused, or it doesn't mean they are confused, but it's because they are trying by all means to protect the system. Because you have to understand that majority of these interviewers, or many people, we can talk about journalists, they are there to protect the system.
2 Jews found in a shallow grave. I happen to have met the mother of one of these. Very brave people. And when she sees this, we can only speculate what must go on in her heart. You would want to say what to her?
I don't have anything to say to her.
You just condemned all Jews with that observation, with this alliterative kind of Jew bashing that so excites your largely male audiences?
Well, I wonder why. It means that I speak the truth. I speak to the pain and hurt of the masses of black people. I speak that which many of them wish they could say. That's why they cheer and applaud.
Speak to Mrs. Goodman,
and I speak.
That's what happens when it comes to the protectors of the system. I know this was just a journalist or an interviewer, but in most cases, this is what the protectors of the system do. Whenever you talk about your struggle, they will always find a way to divert the attention to say, look what is happening to me. Look what is happening to us. Look what the black people have done to those other people. This is what they'll keep on doing in order to redirect their attention, because they don't want people to pay attention to you. They don't want people to pay attention to your struggles. So that is why I always say, if you don't write down your history, then nobody will do so. And all these historical documents that we may get elsewhere might be full of errors. In other words, if you don't feel sorry for yourself, if you don't talk about what you went through, nobody cares. That is why they will always find a way to divert their attention to say, okay, this has also happened to Asian people. This has also happened to other groups of people. Why? Because they want you to forget about your struggle. They want you to take your struggle very light.
I'm concerned with the suffering and the pain of the masses of black people. No one wants to pay reparations. The Jews received over $100 billion in reparations and gets $4 billion annually. A Holocaust museum was set up for them on this soil for over $200 million, and they get $21 million annually just for operating expenses. But the Catholic Church, the Pope, the Jews, the Arabs, white people in general, no one wants to pay reparations to these, the sons and daughters of Africa. So I speak to them. I speak to them. I don't speak to the family of those two Jews. There are too many of us.
Whenever we talk about reparations, even here in Africa, nobody cares. The colonizer wants to keep on taking, So that is why the colonizer, the system, will never care about what happened in the past. Even if you can keep on reminding them, they don't care. They only care about the future and their future without you.
Governmental sanction against any speech, objectionable as it may be, is always suspect. The Constitution has proven to be our strongest safeguard against the Mohammeds of the world. Let us respect and revere the Constitution of the United States and vote down this resolution.
Dr. Khalid Muhammad was censored by the system because of telling the truth, because the system doesn't care. So that is why you have to wake up and start understanding that there's absolutely nothing you can get out of the system. Even if you can get enough salary, even if you can be one of the multimillionaires amongst black people, but you have to know that the system doesn't care, because at the end of the day, you have money, but you don't have power. So that is why it's easy for them to bribe people, but it's not easy for them to hand down power to black people so that black people can take care of themselves, so that black people can implement their own laws. So they don't care that much about money, but they care much about power. That's what their focus is on.
That lady's question. Half of the white population does not support KKK. But this gentleman up here is throwing prejudice towards white people only, and it's unfair.
Let me tell you something. You cannot convince any protector of the system to understand your story, to feel sorry for you. You cannot. Most of the people who disagree with Dr. Khalid Muhammad is because they don't want to feel pity for our story. They don't want to feel sorry for our story. And it means they don't care. I understand those who say, when it comes to certain things, I disagree with him. Yes, it's a human thing. But when it comes to those who say everything that he said, they disagree, then that's a sign of hypocrisy. That's a sign of wickedness.
Alcohol, the way you did our brothers, the red man and the red woman, brothers and sisters, the way you did our Latino brothers and sisters, and then you pit one against the other and then say, look at what these people are doing.
That's true. Right now, as you speak, everywhere in most of these countries, they'll tell that black people cannot handle power. Black people cannot do this. Black people cannot. In other words, black people, what they know is to fight against one another. This is what they would normally say. But forgetting that these are the very same people who educated black people. The reason they cannot handle power is because they are being monitored. They don't have power. The reason they cannot govern well is because they are being controlled. They have been taught. The reason you see them being the victims of alcohol is because it's a man-made thing, according to the system. Then at the end of the day, then they will come and say, look at what they are doing. The crime rate is there. Alcohol is there. Drugs is there. Forgetting that they introduced the very same things to black people as a system to oppress them. This is the truth. We are not fighting against anyone.
May I ask you to kindly speak to that?
You cannot get me to look into the camera and show love for two Jews. I don't even know them. I live with this pain and suffering every day among my own people. Look at our babies. They're in the Oakland, in the Bay Area. They're watching Schindler's List. You have your Schindler's List, but for us it's been a swindler's list because someone is attempting to steal our birthright. They stopped the movie. Take our babies out of the movie as though it's such a moral outrage. And then Spielberg comes in. The governor comes in. What about the statements of the Jew Howard Stern, the comedian Jackie Mason? What about Moshe Dayan? What about the fact that members of the Senate have made racist comments and Congress, and they were voting against me, but they were not brought up by their own colleagues in that so-called august body?
Thank you very much for watching this video to an end. And again, if you have an opportunity, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And again, if you have a hero, an unsung hero of our people that you want us to talk about, you can just give us an email at justiceandlifeanalysis@gmail.com. Thank you very much.